Namaste, and welcome to a live edition of Live, Love, Engage, coming to you live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And also welcome those of you who are listening to this on our your favorite podcast platform, because that's the audio goes out to that as well. And I'm looking forward to today's episode because I've got a gentleman waiting in the wings here that I'm going to bring on right now. His name is Roger Smith, and I know we're going to have a really good conversation. So I'm going to welcome Roger to Live, Love, Engage.
Thank you, Gloria. Thank you for having me on the show. Appreciate
Uh,
it.
yeah, I'm glad to have you. And let me tell all of our listeners and viewers out there just who you are. So, Roger is the author. For those of you watching, he's got his book right behind him, which is very good product
All
placement,
right,
just like I
go
do
the
too.
other way.
Yeah. So, he is the author of The Most Unlikely Leader: Unbelievable Journey from GED to CEO. And he is the former CEO of 3 multi-million dollar insurance companies. And he says that his journey embodies that no matter how low you are in life, you can always turn things around and become anything you set your mind to. And that just works in perfectly with my first question, which is I always like to ask our guests, what is the journey that got you here today? So it sounds like you've had quite the journey. So I wonder if you can
I did.
share with us a little bit about that, and maybe also then what led you to write the book. I suspect they're probably one and the same, as it were.
So, I was born in New York. I was born in Manhattan. My father went to jail when I was 3 years old. And so it was, my mother, single head of household, trying to bring up three kids. And I was a really independent kid. I was, all over Central Park. I'd like steal my brother's comic books and go sell them in Central Park or walking dogs or whatever. But I was a really, really independent kid. Um, my mom remarried. And then when I was about 8 years old, my stepfather went bankrupt. And back then, when you went bankrupt on the East Coast, you went as far west as you could possibly go. And we ended up moving from Manhattan to Malibu. And that was when it was just like apartment beach shacks. It wasn't like these all these huge homes. It may have been like a small enclave, but it was mostly apartment beach shacks. I was a pretty decent kid. I mean, I wasn't a student, but I was B's and C's, star of the junior high musical, chess club, woodworking. I was a pretty decent kid. At the age just before my 15th birthday, actually the summer before, um, I don't know. I can't tell you exactly what it was, but I can tell you that a switch flipped and I went from this kid to all of a sudden, by the time I was 15, basically being a drug addict, homeless, and a high school dropout. So it was a very, very, very quick decline. And I stayed in that mode for quite a few years till I got my opportunity at American Income Life. My stepfather brought me into the American Income Life, and I will tell you, there was 20 years where I was a functioning addict. So there was a lot of build it up, self-destruct, build it up, self-destruct, build it
Mhm.
up, self-destruct, until I finally got clean.
Mm.
And at that point, I could build it up and then sustain the positive part of it. Um, and then the last part of your question, which is why I wrote the book, I think that my being was pretty extreme, but I think that there's just a lot of people in this world that are just they're stuck. They're like,
Mhm.
okay, the deck is stacked against me, so I'm stuck here. And I wrote the book to kind of say, no, you're not stuck here, you know, even if the deck is stacked against you, that you can overcome it and that you could find the success and the happiness that you want in life.
Mm. Well, that is definitely needed because you're right. I do hear a lot of people, say that they do get stuck and they're
Yeah,
not quite sure what to do. But I want to go back a little bit because it sounded like you were really not doing well at all. So
yeah.
uh, there must have been something that like just as it sparked you to go, turn your life, upside down in a way. Whoops, I've got a got a cat who's just was trying to jump on the windowsill and then hit the cord for my light there. I'm like, "Oh dear. I should have
Well,
put him
nine
in a
lives.
better
So,
place." Yeah. All right. Well, this is what happens when you record shows at home. This is what happens. But
for
anyway,
sure.
it's all good. So
Yep.
anyway, what I wanted to find out is what then, because your stepfather evidently saw something in you. Maybe you'd already started to be turning around to be able to bring you into work at the company. So
Yeah.
what happened? What was kind of like your low moment that then kind of turned things around for you?
So in reality, my low moment wasn't till 20 years later. I mean, even though I was the number one salesperson, even though I was portraying a lot of success, as I said, I would continue to
Right.
self-destruct. I mean,
Right.
if the picture, we all have this picture way down deep in our mind of who we are and what we're going to become. And my picture way down deep inside was that I was going to be, this old homeless broke guy,
Mm,
addicted guy. And so anytime I would hit success, then I would self-destruct because I'm in conflict with the picture that I had deep inside.
mm,
There was a moment where I was living in this little cottage in Malibu, and I'm literally on all fours, and I'm trying to find just the smallest sliver of crack cocaine that I might have dropped in the rug. And it's not like I did this for 10 minutes. I did this for hours. And at some point I finally said, if this is what my life is about, if this is where I'm going, then I don't want to live. I mean, I'd rather just walk into the ocean downstairs and just end this because this is a miserable, miserable existence without me being able to see any way out. I look back in my life and I think, oh my gosh, I was blessed in so many, in so many different ways.
yeah.
And one of those ways was that I didn't keep walking in the ocean.
Mm,
And I actually found a rehab, went into back then, it's not like you had a rehab on every corner. It's
yeah,
like
that's
you had
true.
to really search for,
Mhm.
for that. I ended up taking a plane into Northern California and finding this place. Um, and that kind of that changed my life. It's
Mm,
interesting. When I got out of rehab, uh, anything that I'd been doing, remember, it's 20 years of habits as an addict.
mhm.
So
Yeah.
anything that I was doing, I had to do the opposite. If I
Mm,
put on my right shoe first, I was now going to put my left shoe on first. If I
mm,
brush my teeth with my right, I'm going to do it with the left hand. It was like I didn't want anything that could lead me back
yeah.
to that creature of who I was.
Mhm.
Um, and then, once you have positive energy, it's you spend a lot of time. I spent a lot of time negative energy being an addict.
Mm,
Well, when you're clean, then it's the same energy, but now it's positive, and you can put
mhm.
all this positive energy into having a productive and successful life.
Mm. Yeah, and it's true because you really I love how you were doing things differently that, doing the opposite of what you were doing before because that's really how you're able to rewire your brain.
Yes. Yeah.
because that is what it takes to be able to change ingrained habits like that. So I love that you did that. I may try that because I still have a few. I still have a few habits I need to work on as well.
Yeah.
So maybe
Yeah.
I'll do that. I like that. Um, what well, let's talk a little bit, because also I really I aim the show to like women entrepreneurs. So,
Mhm.
is there anything that in all of your, uh, extreme success that you've had at being, leading life insurance companies or insurance companies,
Uh,
um, what is maybe like one or two like lessons that you have learned in business that you could share?
okay. Actually, I'll give you three quick
Okay.
ones.
Okay.
Um, One is that you need to make sure that you have a very, very strong belief system. And
Mm,
it's your responsibility to shore up that belief system. So, it's like, okay, do I believe in me? And if I don't believe in me, then I better work really hard to get results so that I get confidence so that I believe in me. It's not like I believed in me when I started selling. I didn't. In
mm,
fact, I was like the worst salesperson. So, believe in yourself or do the things that you need to do to believe in yourself. Believe in your product. It's so important that you have complete passion about what you're selling or what you're doing. Believe in the leadership. If you're working for a company, believe in the leadership and believe in the company. And if you have questions, it's your responsibility to get those questions answered because if you don't, then you're going to start to form cracks in that foundation. And all of a sudden you start questioning your product, question yourself, question why is the company, and all of a sudden there's a lot of negative that gets in there. And before you know it, your foundation is completely gone.
mm,
So first, shore up your belief system. Second, search out multiple mentors, not
mm.
just one, but multiple mentors, and then aggregate your knowledge. Add. It's not like, oh, I learned from them. Oh, I have a new mentor. I'll throw out the knowledge I got from the first one. I was super fortunate. Had great mentors. My stepfather, who mentored me about selling, the founder of American Income, who taught me about looking for the best in people and patience and if you're going to take out of the community, put back into the community. And my third mentor, who was the founder of Torchmark, who said, Roger, nothing's as good as it seems, and nothing's as bad as it seems. And I
Mm,
thought, oh my goodness, if I'd only known this, you know, 20, 30 years ago, because my life was such peaks and
mhm.
valleys. And
Yeah.
God, if I just understood, hey, I'm on this mountain, but you know what? An obstacle's going to come. I'm going to fall. And you know
Mhm.
what? If I'm in the valley, well, this too shall pass. So,
Right.
if I just understood that, he taught me about responding to situations versus reacting to situations. It
Mm,
was like I was constantly putting out fires, this fire, this fire, this fire, this fire. And he taught me just sit back and respond to the situation logically.
mm,
And gosh, I just, that really just changed it. And then he also taught me that if I want to motivate you, Gloria,
mhm,
and then I'm going to use positive emotion, right?
mhm. Right.
But if I have to deal with conflict, then don't use emotion. Use
Mm,
data and motivate or deal with the conflict with data. And I had kind of come up on the leadership where you're rah rah and then you're yelling, and
Yeah.
and it's like, oh my goodness, it was those type of things that I learned in leadership that really made a complete difference to my leadership style. So
Mm,
I have a couple things that I look at what, the characteristics of a leader and what their responsibility are. I talk about a little bit about burning your bridges,
mm.
in
Mhm.
overcoming obstacles. So, I can touch on those if you want.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you mentioned that because I would like to get back to that, and But
Mhm.
I do wanna touch on that data part because I love that about handling
Yeah,
conflict with data because that does make so much more sense because if you can take the emotion out of it and then just deal with things logically or at least with facts as opposed to,
right,
the emotion, that I can see how that could help really in personal relationships too. I mean, not just professionally as well, I would think.
right, right.
Um,
I mean, it's like if you get into the emotional thing, it's like subjective, against subjective, against
right,
subjective, and it
right.
just you spin in a circle. So it
Yeah.
makes a big difference.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about handling obstacles. So what have you learned throughout your dealing with them? What are like if someone is facing something, especially and just as case in point, as I'm recording this, we just had Hurricane Ian hit Florida last week, and I know a couple people. I know one couple who are homeless essentially now. Their home was flooded out. They lost their car and thankfully they are very spiritually minded people. They're very optimistic that I know that they are going to come through this, but it's still
Yeah,
to deal with the day in day out challenges of those things. What is your
yeah.
advice to people?
You know, um, I had, you know, I had a lot of obstacles. Like I said, I mean, uh, if you think about it, like I said, I wasn't, highly educated. So as CEO, I literally would sit in a finance meeting and and I felt like a fifth grader who can't read in class. It's like, oh man, I'm just gonna have to work harder at what may be easy for other people. I'm just gonna have to work harder at it. But I think that I've always had this philosophy and it's what I was talking about before, which is you hear quite often, don't burn your bridges, and mine is burn every damn bridge that you have, and I say this because, and I don't mean relationships, though you can burn it if you want to, but what I'm really talking about is that we are going to hit obstacles that absolutely seem insurmountable in our life, absolutely seem insurmountable. And in the back of our mind, if we have plan Bs, escape hatches, if this doesn't work, I'll do this, then the temptation to not realize your dreams becomes so great. I've seen so many people give up on their dreams, when hitting that obstacle. And so what I've done in my life is that I've burned those bridges behind me. I once you burn the bridge behind you, you don't have the option of going back. You don't have the option of going sideways. You only have the option of moving forward, of persevering, of putting one step in front of the other. And when that happens, it is amazing about human nature, the creativity that kicks in to get over that wall, around that wall, through the wall, but come out on the other side is just amazing. And years later, you'll look back and you'll go, okay, that was a bump in the road. Some of it you'll say that was a huge bump in the road, but you'll get beyond it and you'll get past it.
Hmm.
And that's kind of been my philosophy in obstacles.
Hmm. Now, if someone's listening to this, is there any way that they could, try to execute it, but still get it wrong? To maybe
Sure,
yeah.
all the time. That's a funny question. Um, yes, there's always a way to get it wrong, and I think that you just kind of have to fight that fear of failure.
Hmm.
I love John Maxwell's book, Failing Forward. It's like, okay, screwed up, that didn't work, move on. I think that if people could realize that, they don't have to be married to their decision, that
Mhm.
if you make a wrong decision, make a new one. You don't have to go down with the ship on this thing. And I constantly made new decisions and made new decisions because the world doesn't stand still. Data changes. And so even if somebody says to you, but wait, you told me. The answer is yes, I did tell you according to that data, but
Right.
I now have new data and I'm going to make a new decision. So,
Mm.
you know what? Yeah, I mean, we get it wrong all the time. It's just
Mm.
that's life. Welcome to it, but it's not the end of the world.
Mm. Yeah, that's an important point to keep in mind because it is. You're right. I mean, because things are still going to always happen, and we do have to learn to roll with it. But I do like that this concept of though burning your bridges, and not having that plan B or plan C. Because I've
Yeah,
heard other people talk about it too. It's like there's no plan B for your A game or something like that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I think I wonder, maybe you can speak on this, maybe why is it that people feel like they need to have, these other plans in place and not be willing to just go for it. And then is it just I think maybe we just like to have safety and we don't want to step out of our comfort zone. What do you think?
I think we don't like to step out of our comfort zone. I think we don't, human nature, like change. Um, and I think it's a confidence thing.
Mm,
I tell people, listen, I wasn't a naturally born salesperson. I wasn't a natural born leader. I wasn't a natural born CEO. Maybe there are those out there, but I sure wasn't. And so all of my behavior is learned behavior. So when people are questioning and they don't have the confidence, okay, well, you know what? You just got to learn it. You have to learn how to do it. And you do that. The perfect example, I told you when I first started, I wasn't a good salesperson. So in sales, they say, okay, use your closing line and then shut up. And whoever speaks first, they're the buyer. So I would close the sale, I'd shut up, and the back of my neck would start to shake so hard that literally I thought people thought I was having some type of seizure. I was so scared. I was so nervous. But I also understood that if I wanted to get good at this, then I was going to have to work harder than anybody else. I was going to have to give more presentations than anybody else. I was going to have to practice more than anybody else. And by doing that, I started to get some results. And
mm,
then with results comes confidence. And so then I started to gain my confidence. And I'm telling you, it was the same thing. It was the same thing as a leader. It was the same thing as a CEO. So,
mm.
if people say, well, I just don't know if I can do that, it's like, well, you're not going to do it if you're not willing to work for it, right?
True.
If it was easy, everybody would have it.
Mhm.
So if you start off with the premise, this isn't easy, you know, then
Yeah.
you know what you got to do.
Exactly. We forget that. I mean, when we were kids, we didn't come out of the womb knowing how to walk. We still had to be able to, grow and then be able to start pulling ourselves up, and then we'd fall down. And they
Right,
didn't say, "Oh, shame on you for falling down." No, they'd be like, "Oh, it's okay, get back up again." So
right,
we still
right.
need to take that advice as adults, and we
Yeah.
get so hard on ourselves
We
sometimes.
are hard on ourselves. We beat the crap out of ourselves. It's just, and there's
Yeah,
no need to. There's just
yeah,
no need to.
absolutely. Um, What do you wish you had known when you started out on this adventure we call life?
In the business world, I wish I had known about balance,
Mm,
and I did not know about balance. It was
mm,
like, okay, I'm the CEO. That's me, right? In every aspect.
right.
And then I retired.
Mm,
And I went, well, wait, if I'm not see, who am I? What
yeah,
am I? What do
right.
I do now? And it was a real shock to my system. I mean, I really had to work at trying to fill in all those pieces of the pie. And so I wish that throughout my life, I wish that I had had more balance. I wish I understood about being present in whatever I was doing. Like if I was working, okay, great, be present in your work. And if I'm with family, my family, then be present with my family. If it's spiritual, be present in my spiritual. If it's social, be present in my social. Be present where you are and what you're doing instead of just trying to juggle everything and all the balls drop,
Mm,
so
yeah.
yeah, balance is key. um yeah.
Yeah.
Balance is key.
Yeah, I agree, and you're right, being present, I've been reading actually a book, from a Vietnamese monk, and I forget his name, but he was, yeah, talking about it because especially, like, the Buddhists really talk about being present and being
Yep,
mindful with what you're doing, and it makes sense, it doesn't matter what religion you are, it's a good practice to
it
take,
is.
anyway. Um, what are you curious about right now?
I actually am curious about my next chapter.
Mm.
It's like,
Yep.
okay, I I wanted to write a book. I wanted to
Mhm.
hopefully inspire people, motivate people. I wanted people to look at the book and say, "Pff, if this guy could do it, I can do it." Right? And it's true, by the way. And
Yeah.
so that's what I wanted to accomplish. Okay. What is that next chapter? I'm really curious. I definitely, want to do service and mentoring, and
Mhm.
I definitely want to give back. It's a part of who I am and what I am. But how that is going to formulate, I don't know at this point. So I'm really
Well,
curious.
yeah. Well, I'm sure, something will come to you, at some point. And, well,
Yes.
let me ask you this as well. Is there something that you do, to be able to keep yourself on track? Do you have like a practice or something that you do? Because like one of the things I do is I love to meditate, but that's not for everybody. What are some practices that you do that kind of especially keep you, on the straight and narrow, and maybe even help to
Yeah.
inspire you at times?
Yeah. Um, I tend to find things that take me out of my comfort zone.
Mm.
So I'm about to be 70 years old next month. And so you always have in the back of your mind, okay, is my mind, am I starting to forget things? What's going on? It just, happens with age. And so I actually joined a community theater,
Mm.
and that took care of a couple things. Number one, I'm using my mind, I'm memorizing lines, I'm doing that. And on the ego part of it, I was used to giving a lot of speeches, used to get a lot of applause. so, it feeds that part a little bit in there. So I think I think those things where I'm just taking myself out of my comfort zone, and puts me in a place I'm not comfortable, but it's really fulfilling, when you accomplish it. I like that. I think that keeps me, in a weird way, it keeps me grounded. I'm not
Mm.
the guy to sit there and play golf 8 hours a day. I don't, it's just not me. So
Mhm.
I do my physical part and keep myself physical, try to do my spiritual part,
Mhm.
but I think it's just kind of keeping myself out of that comfort zone that keeps me going.
Very good. I like that. Um, is there anything else that I should have asked you that I didn't? Anything else or any other last words of wisdom to leave our audience today?
Yeah, I mean, I think that in the end, it really comes down to being able to persevere.
Mm.
If I look at my career, if I look at where I started and I looked at the end, um, it was just people kept on falling off on their journey, and I kept on my journey. I
Mm,
just kept on persevering. I had the vision of what I wanted,
mhm,
very focused. It's not like, oh, it got out of focus. I mean, as I moved up, I was very focused on that part. And so I was able to realize these dreams because I was focused on the dreams.
mm.
So I think that if you have a dream, get it very clear in your mind. Whatever it is, make it very, very clear in your mind. And then just persevere. Just keep going. Even when you can't, take another step in front of yourself.
Mm.
That's
Yeah.
my advice.
Well, I like it. I think it's excellent advice, and I'm sure if you're listening out there today, take advantage of it and follow that advice, and you're gonna do fine. If someone listening to you today wants to be able to connect with you, or also pick up a copy of your book and read it, so where can they get that? Where can they connect with you?
So you can go on to my website, which is rogersmith.me, rogersmith.me. You could order the book on there. All my social media links is on there. You can go to Amazon and pick up the book. Um,
All
yeah,
right.
that's how you get a hold of me.
All right, very good. Well, thank you so much for spending your a bit of your morning with us today. I appreciate it,
Love it.
and
Love
yeah,
it.
so I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And yeah, thank you so much. And I also want to
Great.
thank all of those of you who have been watching and listening. I appreciate you as well. And if you got some value out of this today, I hope you will share it with a friend, and or encourage them to subscribe to the podcast, or subscribe on our YouTube channel as well. And until next time, as always, I encourage you to go out and live fully, love deeply, and engage authentically.